Hello, Freelance Business Week. I hope you've enjoyed your day so far. I know I have. We have a lot of wonderful discussions. We're still not even, we're only barely the middle of the day. But for this session, I would love to introduce you someone who is returning to Freelance Business Week and is here with a brand new topic to help you do even better in your business. Cynthia Sandoval. How are you, Cynthia?
Hello. I'm good. How are you, Livia? How you doing?
I am well. Just kind of excited to see what you've got in store for us today.
I am super excited to share. With the chat and things like that, can people comment in real time?
Yes, so people will be commenting on the chat, and and as always, if they have any questions or concerns, you'll be able to see them we'll be able to see them through the StreamYard chat, and you can choose when to address them, and it will bring them up on the comments and whatnot. So
Cool. Well, I'll introduce myself really quickly, and I'll probably
yes,
introduce myself during the presentation as well.
I'll
See
let
if
you.
we have a slot.
I'll just let you take it off from here. I'm going to take myself as a stream and just let you have the stage.
That's even better. No, I'm just
All right, take it off,
kidding.
Cynthia.
All right, let me just share my screen really quickly. Here we go, guys. So today I'm going to break down some strategies in which you can scale your own freelance business. So I'm curious as to everyone in the chat where you're based out of and what you currently offer. So if you're a photographer, a designer, something like that, I would love to know just so I can tailor this a little bit and add in some additional nuanced feedback there. But let's get into it. So overall, who I am, my name's Cynthia. I am a digital marketing consultant and a former struggling freelancer. I am the founder and director of Cynthia's Marketing, a boutique growth agency, marketing agency, where we specialize in paid media. But we also offer some additional offerings, some additional services like email marketing and content creation. But we manage over $1 million in advertising spend across Facebook, Google, Pinterest, and Snapchat. Really cool. But back to the struggling freelancer part, which I think you guys might find interesting. So a couple of years ago, as a struggling freelancer, I was struggling to make 5K months. I really had no leads, no pipeline. I worked by myself. I was always working. When I stopped working, money stopped coming in. It was rough. I couldn't scale. I was working 60 plus hour weeks, which is crazy. I left my 9 to 5 to work even more, but purely on client work. And I had no time to watch anime, and I love anime, and I also like spending time with my cat. That's cool. But now I'd like to think that I'm a happy business owner. Sometimes I'm sad, but overall, we're in a space where we're making 20K plus months in recurring revenue. We work with a core team of 3. So we're very small, but it's no longer me working by myself and just me diddling my fingers, working on ad accounts and stuff like that. I'm working with a core team of 3 with additional contractors, depending on the project. I spend most of my time delegating, creating standard operating procedures, aka SOPs. Sales calls. I love sales calls, creating content, doing really cool conferences like this one, right? And now I probably spend between 10 to 15 hours on client work, depending, sometimes even less. And I have time to finally watch anime. Some weeks I don't, but you got to make time for anime. So, how did I make that transition, right? What was that glow up like? How did I scale from then struggling to barely make 5K months to 20K plus, right? What did that transition look like? And I think that transition really came about with understanding this concept that's really spoken about in the E-Myth. I wish I read this book earlier. I highly recommend you read it. The E-Myth is by Michael E. Gerber, and it talks about this notion that really most people think that businesses are entrepreneurs risking capital to make profit. And that's probably the real definition of a business, right? But in reality, what we get is most people who start businesses are really technicians, people who are good at a certain aspect of their job and decided to start their own show, right? So that skill that you have that you think would make a great business, it probably won't. A great business is what makes a great business. So back when I was making those 5K months, I was really just focusing on the specific service that I provide, which is paid media, just managing Facebook ads and Google ads. I didn't really have a business. I was just providing a one-off service, right? Me being great at Facebook and Google ads really wasn't enough. That's honestly the prerequisite. That's the bare minimum to start a business. And what I really like the E-Myth is that it brings about, or it introduced me to to this additional concept of the three roles that you need to play in a business, right? It's not just the technician, the doer, right? It's the entrepreneur. The entrepreneur is the visionary who thinks ahead and plans for the future. And then you also have the manager. The manager is the person that establishes order in the workplace, project management, systems, SOPs, things like that. They create the consistency. And then there's the technician, the worker, the doer, the person who really just does all the technical work, like how I was when I started struggling and making this 5K months. Lots of months, way less. I'm curious, where do you guys find yourself in these roles? Are you playing too much of the technician, or where are you at? So the reality is that most freelance businesses really fail because they're stuck in the role of the technician. And that's why I was actually really stuck and I plateaued. There was another situation that happened, which was called the pandemic, that made me lose all my clients, but it also freed up a lot of time. And I'll go into that in just a little bit more. But the reason why businesses like ours, like freelance businesses, scale or lack or fail really is because we stay stuck in one role and we don't really put on those multiple hats like we're supposed to. So when I was struggling to make 5K plus months, I was probably sometimes struggling to make 3K or 2K. Um, this is what it looked like, and this is where my tasks look like in these individual roles. So as the entrepreneur, I wasn't planning for growth at all. I was too consumed in client work to even have the headspace to think about any future moves. I didn't plan anything, I didn't have necessarily goals on where I wanted to take this. I had no idea how I wanted my Q3 or Q2, my quarters to look like at all. I didn't have any certain revenue goals or even projections. As the manager, I didn't really develop any systems. I kind of did things as I was told a lot of times, or I already knew what to do. So I was just going through the motions. I didn't really document much, right? So I also had no onboarding system for clients, which took up a lot of my time. Done right, onboarding is really going to help you scale. But there was no systems for proposals or contracts at all. No real systems in developing or getting discovery calls. No proper project management. There wasn't really. I wasn't tracking revenue. I wasn't tracking expenses as much as I should. I wasn't using a bookkeeping software, which I've learned the hard way that you should definitely do that. QuickBooks is a lifesaver. And as the technician, this is really where I lied. I lied specifically in this role. I managed accounts. I set up conversion tracking, day-to-day optimizations within the account, day-to-day health checks, reporting, managing client requests, or just managing clients in general. Just making sure the clients were happy and their accounts were very profitable. I excelled in that area, but I found myself kind of plateauing because, well, what's next? Now, this is what it looked like when I transitioned to 20K plus months. In the entrepreneur role, I hired business coaches to help me step outside of my day to day, to really flesh out my brand, to overall think about expansion. I really wasn't thinking about expansion because I was so caught up in that day to day. I didn't even understand who my ideal client was, who my ideal client was, or like create any client avatars or anything like that. And as the manager, I developed. Oh, I'm sorry. I actually did have an ideal client in mind. And as the manager, I actually developed and maintained systems. I use Notion to literally every time I onboard a client, there's a clear list of to-dos. When I onboard a client, I have to get access to X accounts. I have to get access to their Pixel. access to their content, access to their branding content, things like that. I develop a board for them on Notion. I have all of those procedures laid out really nicely for them and for myself and for my team. I also have outreach templates at this point. I have proposals all built out, content calendars as well. I developed standard operating procedures to onboard help too. So for managing clients, I hired a media buyer to help me just do day-to-day optimizations. And so I have a clear to do a checklist to do whenever you all look at an account, you just do this, and all that good stuff. And then as the technician, as you know, I hired help. So I hired help with my website. I hired help with admin tasks. I hired an assistant. I hate video editing. And so I offloaded everything that I did video editing wise to launch my YouTube channel. I hired an accountant because I couldn't manage my own payroll and bookkeeping. It was just way too much. And like I mentioned before, I hired a media buyer, an assistant that I personally trained. So that shift really stemmed from this overall mindset shift of, to quote the great Jay-Z, I'm not a businessman, I'm a businessman, right? So understanding that as the technician and coming to terms with this harsh reality that your clients tend to be your bosses. And I didn't leave, like I said before, a 9 to 5 just to work at 9 to 12 a.m. That isn't the idea of success for me. I wanted to do more and make more, or do less and make more, right? So you should really be doing more of what you love and less of what you don't like. Like I hate reporting. It's such a big pain point, and a lot of the clients that I work with now, I have to do a lot of custom reporting. So I set up templates and just have my assistant go in there, and anything, if she needs any help with anything, I'll jump in. But more or less, that's off my plate now. I'm not managing that anymore. I get to do more of the tasks that I love, which are more of the creative tasks involving with advertising. So the idea of offloading that and doing more, or doing less and doing more of what you love, is that you get to focus on tasks that really move the needle of for your business. And also it's like you do work that you really care about, and that overall adds to the quality of the work that you deliver. And when you have work that is more impactful, higher quality, you generate better results and you compound more opportunities down the line, because then your clients refer you to X, Y, and Z. So what we're here today about, which is scaling. You cannot scale without systems in place, right? So here's a couple of things that you can start systemizing right now. You could just write this out on a list. Contracts and proposals. I use Honeybook, and I actually have a checklist or a list of all my entire tech stack of all the things that I use to manage and run my business. And you can easily download that for free. I'll send you a link towards the end of this talk. I systemize client onboarding, just making sure, because a really big pain point with advertising agencies is like getting access to all the right accounts and all the things associated with the accounts, right? So making sure I have that down, making sure the client answers this questionnaire promptly, that it's easy for the client, right? Hiring as well. So with hiring, I have certain assignments, and I also have like tests already built out so that when I want to hire for a specific role, I know what tests to send them to then further qualify them. You can systemize that. Client tasks. So anything involving, like in my case, optimization. I guess if you're a photographer, I was a photographer back in the day. What was really annoying is like uploading all my files and then like quickly editing certain things, especially when I already had a ton of presets done. I could have easily offloaded that to someone else so that I could focus on getting the next client. So that's an example of that. For me, it's also reporting, like I mentioned before, conversion tracking, sales calls and prospecting. At this point, it's more or less second nature, but when I first started off, I just wrote out all of the questions that I ask during a discovery call. I know what I have to ask. I know how to qualify. That's all basically systemized on my end. I send out a Calendly link. They book the Calendly link. It does a discovery call. We get on that call for 20 minutes. We hash out whether or not we're a good fit, and then I send over some kind of free audit. There's a system in place there. I know what to do. It's not guesswork. It's not take occupying space in my brain, really. Um, in your content, that's probably a really big pain point for me, which is why I offloaded a lot of work to a video editor and a couple of other content creators. But something that you have to do in order to systemize your content, in order to market your business, is just batch record, batch edit. I do a lot of batching on Canva, or I shoot a ton in one day, and then I have my video editor take it over from there. And developing like a content calendar as well. I use Notion for literally everything. I know a lot of people use Asana too. I love Notion. And just lay out what I'm going to post during the week. For LinkedIn, things like that. Prioritize whichever platforms really make sense for you, your business, and your target audience. And here's a really great exercise that I implore you to do. List out literally everything you do during the day. Identify any recurring tasks, determine what tasks can be delegated, and then hire a virtual assistant to help you execute with project management. Like I said, I keep plugging in Notion. I use Notion. They don't have an affiliate program, so I just love it that much. And the idea here is so that you can free up your time so you can use it for manager tasks and entrepreneur tasks. Manager tasks like creating SOPs, new proposal templates, right? Discovery calls, creating content, entrepreneur tasks, planning for the next quarter, new product offerings, new product services, or new services rather, new industries to tap into because maybe you tapped it dry or whatever. Partnerships that you can specific partnerships, ideas for conferences that you want to talk at, whatever the case is. You really need that time to plan and to dream a little bit. And you can't do that when you're stuck doing reoccurring tasks that you can easily offload. Later on, we'll talk about my method in which I hire VAs and just help in general, which I'm very, very picky. And I think it's a huge pain point for most um, business owners hiring. So I'll give you the way that I go about it. So yeah, back to scaling. So let's demystify scaling and what that is. Very simple. Scaling means to grow or expand your operations while proportionately growing your profit. So growing while being profitable, right? In order for you to do this, you really need to identify your bottlenecks. And that's it varies from person to person, business to business, whatever the case is. So what are your current roadblocks to growth? Is it working in the wrong industry? A lot of times, I recently spoke to someone, a client, and he mentioned how he's hit a plateau. And it's because he's specifically working with coaches and consultants. And my rebuttal or my advice to him was, how about you redirect whoever you're targeting and tap into a different industry that's booming? I know just as a coach, there's not, I mean, it's an industry that's growing rapidly, but there are a lot of industries that have a lot more money, a lot more budget, specifically e-commerce, depending on the sector. The healthcare industry is booming. It's doing really great. So I implored him to look more into, e-commerce and to just diversify whoever he's targeting right now if that's currently not working for him and he's doing every which way he's doing everything in his power to maximize that. Maybe it's just not, just try something else. Maybe it's lack of time to actually plan. Like we mentioned before, that was the case for me. I had no time to even think about optimizing my website and adjusting the copy for my ideal target audience. Also, it was lack of exposure for myself as well. I didn't have any time to like reach out or develop content, honestly, in order to bring up my exposure or to just get exposure in general. So we need to eliminate these bottlenecks in order to get to the next level, in order to scale, right? Generally speaking, the two things holding you back from scaling, I would say it's one of these two things. It's either time or resources, time or money, right? From me initially starting off, I would say it's both. It was both. But during the pandemic, prior to the pandemic, I hit a plateau, and then the pandemic happened, and then I lost all my clients. And when I lost all my clients, not all of them, just the majority of them, except for one, which is basically all of them, um, that freed up my time. And when I had my time back, I was able to plan out all the things that I was able to be that much more intentional with my marketing, with my content, reaching out to the right audiences. Reaching out to the right prospects. I even pivoted my business in a way to focus more on direct to consumer e-commerce as opposed to lead generation. So it worked and it was great, and I highly recommend that you do the same. So when is the right time to scale, right? I think that's probably yeah, I think that's a question that's definitely a question that popped in my head. Well, is this the right time? Generally speaking, the right time to scale, well, there's no real formula for it, right? It boils down to what you want, what your goals are, the goals for your company, the level of ambition, like how many hours you're willing to put into this, responsibility, in order to take on this pursuit of growing your business. There's something that my mentor says a lot, and he says, "In order for you to get to the next level, what are you willing to sacrifice?" Um, and that's funny because oftentimes when we think about visualizing our ideal future, we think about all the pretty things, but we don't take the time to think about what we actually have to sacrifice. So I digress, but here are some signs that would say that you're more or less ready for scaling. You are the bottleneck in your business. So your own calendar is the thing that's getting you in the way of your growth. You're actually turning away new business because you're too busy. That's a huge indicator. Also, your reputation is actually bringing in new business. So you're doing quality work. It's not the work, or it's not the quality of work, right? Um, your clients are even referring you to other people, but you're just too busy that you can't even take them on. You're actually too busy or so busy that your clients are actually starting to suffer. And that right there was uh, just what was starting to happen to me as well. And I don't think that to me is a disservice of what I'm here for. Absolutely everything. So that's what really made the decision for me to invest time to really grow this and resources to really grow this. So create a plan. Start with the end goal in mind. I did a lot of exercises and just writing things out, and as I was working, and all that good stuff. But for me, that was going from a digital marketing freelancer, just known as a one man kind of band or woman, to building a consultancy with a small team that delivers high quality, impactful work, digital advertising work, while only working with a maximum of 8 to 10 clients with a monthly recurring revenue of 50K. That's how much I felt like that was great for my ideal lifestyle, between 40 and 50K, 40 and 50% profit margins, which is pretty nice. Um, so that was my, I didn't want to have, I didn't want to necessarily scale into an agency. I wanted to have enough where I can have a small team, we could be foster a family, and have a great culture, not overwork myself. I don't want to experience burnout ever again from the multiple times that I've experienced it. I want to create a healthy workplace environment, and I wanted to have time to watch anime. Like, anime is great. I'm just getting in a question and reading this now. So someone just asked, here we go. How did you find the time to make that transition? All the changes you mentioned are already heavy, time consuming changes. And you mentioned you were the technician. You couldn't really see beyond the current client work you had. How did you pull yourself out of that? So for me, like I mentioned before, I lost a big chunk of my clients through the pandemic. My clients, it wasn't necessarily on bad terms. It was just like their revenue was down, and the first people to go off are to get cut off are the marketing team, or is the marketing team. I would recommend, if I could go back and say like the pandemic didn't necessarily happen, I would let go of a specific client that's taking up a lot of my time and not really moving the needle for me and where my goals are, or wherever I want to go, just to free up my time. I would offload that to probably a friend within the similar industry, in the same industry, obviously, in the same industry doing what I do. And I would take some kind of finder's fee and probably take a cut off of the management fees, like 10% of the management fee reoccurring, because that was my client. I gave them the business. I literally fed them. I just gave it to them right in their hand. And also, my friends, we all do that. So I would do something like that just to free up my time. Like I said, what my mentor says, rather, what are you willing to sacrifice? If it's not time, then it's resources or some kind of combo of both. So for you, maybe that's even if you have the resources but you don't have the time, invest in a business coach. Invest in someone that's going to help you go to the next level. Do the research, obviously, and invest. Someone asked, how long did that transition take going from your struggling freelancer from now? Well, even though I made it seem like really pretty with a happy face and a smiley face, um, that transition, I would say, took over the span of my growth was pretty fast because of the industry that I'm in and the service that I provide. But between 1.5 to 2 years. Um, when I broke off into everyone's situation is very different, right? But I broke off into freelancing full time when I had clients already. I had a certain amount of money in the bank. I had an established skill set that uh, generated good income, and my specific industry is very much booming. After the pandemic, everyone cares about their online presence now more than ever. And who doesn't care about revenue, right? So that's why I scaled rather rapidly. But be patient. Sometimes it can take. I have a friend who's a video producer, editor, and he suffered pretty his business suffered, not him, but pretty intensely during the pandemic, and he's just getting back on his feet. And like, that journey for him looks like between 5 years or so. It's a journey, man. Someone asked, manager and technician, I want to be the entrepreneur but can't find the time. Well, I would throw back that question that my mentor asked me. What are you willing to sacrifice? you know Eventually you do have to make a sacrifice, whether it's time or resources. Think about what that looks like for you and really meditate on that. That's my honest advice. Bring in the questions, please. This is really interesting. This is fun. So, again, all right, I'm going to answer this question actually. Let me just take a sip of water. Or tea. That's not water. How did you find a mentor, and how much did that expedite your transition from technician to a business? How did I find a mentor? I feel like every service provider that I hire or work with, like as a client, or a hire to help me with my business, or um, internally, or like a coach or whatever the case is, they all come through referrals. So my friend was working with a business owner at the time, a business coach, and he referred me to that business coach, and I saw the results that that coach generated. And also, I had ended up developing a really great relationship with that person. He actually hired me for advertising help, and so it's a very fruitful relationship. I think you need to a lot of times, like, verify the results that they or that they have with other clients, ideally results that you want, right? um you got to do, like I said, that's the research that entails. That industry is a little shisty. Just make sure the marketing messaging feels authentic. More importantly, make sure that person is where you want to be. I see that as like leapfrogging. I hire the people who I want. I want what they have, so I hire them. And it expedited exponentially, pretty rapidly. Someone else asked, going from individual freelancer to having a team/agency seems like a giant jump. Suggestions to tackling that idea? Tequila? No. Um, Just having a little fun here. It is a giant jump. For me, it was kind of weird initially to see myself in the eyes of a or to be the boss. Like it's weird. It's still weird for me now. Like with the people that I work with, I'm like, like we work together, okay? Like we're cool. You don't have to like call me your boss or anything. Like, um, but eventually I leaned into it more and more. Um, it all comes down to really that vision that you have for your life, right? Why you do what you do, your values. I think not to get a little woo, but you really need to check in with yourself and figure out your values, what you want, things like that. And those are the very things that keep you centered in whatever it is that you do, you know. Having a good support system is absolutely crucial when you're growing rapidly. And taking breaks, man, taking a lot of breaks, walking, sometimes I wouldn't say that I work, excessively, but my mind is always racing. So for me, I do a lot of like Wim Hof exercises. I walk. Recently injured my ankle, but it's getting better. Just find time to do the things that you love, and don't lose sight of that. Someone else asked my problem. Oh, a lot of questions. Keep them rolling. My problem is that I can't let go of the work. My clients have a certain expectation, and I tend to be a bit of a perfectionist slash control freak. Ooh, perfection equals poverty, man. I have a hard time bringing in new members due to the work, so I can free up time. Is that something that you struggled with? If so, how did you combat that? Yeah. I actually in hiring basically my right-hand person, I realized I was an extreme control freak. I didn't realize because I figured like, "Oh, I'm a laid back person and I'm not crazy." No, I'm very crazy. It's what makes me good at what I do. And, it was really hard to let go of tasks. It was hard to let go of feeling like I just wanted to feel in control, honestly. And with the client expectations, that at the end of the day, as service providers, our job is to manage client expectations, right? And if that client so there could be 2 problems here. The problem is that you have a hard time letting go, which is something that you gotta meditate through, you gotta breathe, and it's that's just the next step. You gotta figure out what internally is holding you back there, right, with the perfectionist attitude. You need to understand that perfection is the enemy of progress. It doesn't need to be perfect, right? And then there's the other piece of your clients having these expectations for you. I'm not sure of what those expectations are, but maybe they think, I want you to handle it. And if you hire anyone else, I no longer trust you. That's usually an indication that you probably need to have better communication with the client. You need to develop a little bit more trust. And you need to make sure that the client really understands. And I'm going to go over this in a little bit and how to actually hire your prices with current clients. I'm going to go over a little exercise with you and what I actually did. But you need to make sure that the client understands that you are growing. And because of the quality of work is growing, and because of the quality of work is growing, their business is growing. And so you're really doing this for them at the end of the day. I mean, you're doing it for you, but it's a mutual benefit. And if the client ultimately doesn't understand that, then that's not a good client for you to have. That client is a little toxic. They're not helping you get to the next level. I've let go of clients, I think April of this year. No, it's April now. April of last year. And this client solely wanted to work with me, and it was at a time when I was hiring more people, and they just only wanted to work with me. And honestly, like I was like, okay, well, this is not going to work out. Back to that question: what are you willing to sacrifice? I can happily sacrifice that a little bit of money over long term growth. Okay, so hope that answered your question. If you were a company of one, you don't need slash want to get a team, but you need to scale on your own. How can you hold yourself accountable? Um, that's a great question. You can. Go on, you can join certain communities, hire a coach. um I think hiring a coach and also joining certain communities to keep you accountable, making sure that you have proper um project management in play, your time blocking is absolutely huge for me. And you just, have those regular check-ins with yourself. You really need a system if you want to get to the next level. Like they say, I saw a tweet the other day or something, I think I retweeted it, and it was like, from 0 to 10K months it's a team of 1, from 20 to like 50 it's a team of like 2 to 5, or whatever. And then if you want even more than that, it's obviously a bigger team, right? So it doesn't necessarily have to be someone that you employ, but maybe someone you work with, like a coach or consultant, here and there, just to hold you accountable. I love, I hire a trainer because of that, just to hold me accountable. Perfection equals poverty. That's a great line. I'm a perfectionist, but striking that balance can really solve you from poverty. Yeah, I let go of that real quick. I don't know if you noticed, but there was like a typo in this presentation, and I was not a typo, but like it was like the word the and T and the H was capitalized, and I was like, ah. But it is what it is. Like we're not meant to be perfect, and you kind of have to keep it moving. You just need to figure out what's the minimal viable product. Whenever, like you might have hear this a lot in business, but in order to launch something, you just need the minimal viable product. And managing clients and selling clients a service, you just need to be 2 steps ahead of the client, not 50. Um, all right, so keep the questions in rolling. Back to scaling your business. You really want to ask yourself, back to the bottlenecks part, what are the bottlenecks in my business? So for a couple of you mentioned it's really like, for some people it's like, I have a hard time letting go of work, or a hard time delegating, um poor project management, or lack of accountability in things, and maybe I need to be a little bit more organized. And asking yourself, can I outsource or hire for these bottlenecks at a rate that I can remain profitable if I remove myself from the equation, right? Do I have repetitive tasks that are taking up a lot of my time but not rewarding me financially or helping me grow my business? That would be better off given to someone else that could do a better job at it, or that actually enjoys it. Like I said, I hate reporting. Um, I could do it. I'm good at it, but if I can offload that to someone else, then I'm going to have a way better time. Client's going to be happy. I'm happy. Everyone's happy. So ask yourself these questions, and let me know in the chat, what are your answers. Um, so the easiest way to scale is to increase your prices, right? But that really depends on where you're at. So if you're at the point of multiple happy clients, who are getting really, really great results, and then it's obviously time to hike up your rates. But it can be really scary. It's really scary for me. But you really need to come to this realization and think, if what would 10 to 20% boost in revenue mean for me? What does that mean to you? That can mean a lot. That can mean new equipment. That could mean, I don't know, even food on your kid's table. It can mean a lot, right? So even though that could be nerve wracking, here's how how I approached it. Rather, just had a hard time saying that. You want to make sure that you speak to your clients face to face. Well, in these days, Zoom. Before the pandemic, I was doing everything to Zoom anyways. You want to update them on your growth. So you want to let them feel like, they're a part of your family, right? That's the relationship building part with your client. Um, and let them know of your progress and how they've contributed to that. You contributed to that client. Thank you for that. And then let them know, like, on X date, your fees will be increasing to X. You want to give them ample time. You want to make them feel important. Let them know how much you actually care about the work that you do for them. And I hope you do. So here's exactly what not exactly, not word for word, pretty close for what I said recently to a client, where I was hiking up my fees because, my overhead prices are increasing. And I was really nervous. Like I mentioned before, I was nervous that this client was going to uh, say like, no, I don't want to work with you anymore. Um, so it's a really fine dance. But if they said I didn't want to work with you anymore, well, then, we're moving in different directions, and I'm going to make a recommendation to someone else that can help you out. But Here's what I said more or less. I said, client, I really wanted to talk to you briefly to let you know how, thanks to incredible clients like you, we've managed to increase the overall quality of work that we provide with additional tools and services. Because of these additional expenses, which are directly or is directly correlated to the higher quality of work that we provided, client, you've seen the results that we've generated. They're excellent, right? Well, starting in July, our monthly management fees will increase to X. I care so much about our working relationship, that over anything. So I want to make sure I give you ample notification time. So you got to work on the framing aspect of it. Like when you're worried about client expectations, just frame it. Put it up front that just make sure you put up front the work that you've provided and how happy they are with the work and how great the work has been. And then you go in with the not so great news because no one likes price increases. But if they can say, like, wow, everything has increased because they've done this, then it's only worth, I want to pay for that increase in quality. It's worth it for me. Another way to scale is to diversify your offerings. I can tell you what that looks like for me, but overall, like, is it possible that there are other complementary products or services or offers that you can add to your relationship with your current clients to increase the value of those relationships, value like monetary value and profit, often known as lifetime value of a client? So consider the value ladder to increase your customer LTV. LTV, lifetime value, represents the total amount of money a customer is expected to spend in your business or products during their entire lifetime. So if you sell, I'll give you an example of paid media services for like 2K monthly retainer, and you want to add on to that. What I did is that I sold landing page optimization separately, landing page creation separately. I sold also recently um, email marketing services. And then also, if you spend more, or also content creation. So if you want us to create all of your ads, especially video ads or higher end ads, we'll gladly do it, but it's an additional fee. So that's what that looks like for me. And then I also like diversify my product offerings, but I'll tap into that just a little bit. But this is what it would look like for a dentist, and do this for yourself. What would this look like for you? What does that value ladder look like? A dentist comes in and you have an initial tooth cleaning for $37. And then it's the cavity filling, right? Then the wisdom tooth, the dental crown, all the way up to the braces, which is $4,300. So it's a pretty high lifetime value. Imagine if they just stuck to teeth cleaning. That would suck. Here's another example for an SEO. I don't know if we have any SEOs in here. Here's what it would look like. So step one, you have this front end offer, something that's affordable or free. You have this one page actionable recommendations for on page SEO improvements, right? For me, if you are a paid media strategist, maybe you offer a free audit or you charge for an audit, whatever the case is. And then, hey, if you really like that audit, I don't charge that little for management fees, but hey, if you really like that audit, I can help you manage all the work that you have to do, right? So then that would be step two. So now you have them on a monthly retainer. And then maybe you create, this makes more sense for SEO, not so much for paid. Then you create some kind of one-time 3-year SEO strategy, like an Outlook keyword analysis and a content strategy for $199 as a one-time fee. And then you upsell them a continuity offer for more recurring income on their end and your end too. Instead of, X amount of content, you provide double that blog posts per month, and you start implementing that new content strategy, right? So you come up with the strategy and then the implementation. You charge for both. Then an even higher ticket offer is like you sell some kind of on-site employee training. This is something that I've done as well. Or event coaching, consulting, and things like that. And you can charge that for a one-time fee of $5,000. And it takes place it's like a workshop, and it takes place over the span of 3 days or whatever the case is. And then this is something that I want to work into, where this is a final ascension offer where you create some kind of mastermind, a retreat, a strategic networking event with all expenses included. And that's like 10K to 100K. So think big, my friends. Don't just think like about the service that you can provide, but what can it snowball into in order to increase your lifetime value? And increased lifetime value equals profits for yourself. I know that you might be super passionate about what you do, but a business cannot run without profits. Let me know if that resonates. Diversifying your revenue sources. Here's another way to scale. And this is what I've done. So ask yourself, what kind of internal documents can you create on its own, right? And to sell as a standalone product, a digital product specifically. What specific knowledge can you also sell off into a course? You know, what do you guys do in here? So, what kind of freelance work do you do, and what kind of sectors? I'm really curious, and I'll kind of give some examples from that. Let me know in the chat. But for example, for me, all of the documents that I create to train my assistant media buyer, I'm selling all of that off as one-off products so that someone can use that for their own business. And boom, that's $100 while I sleep. Like I'm just repurposing the stuff that I'm already making to scale, to build a business, not necessarily scaling. Okay, so graphic design work. There's so much that you could do with graphic design. It's crazy. Like with graphic design, you can sell like templates on Envato and things like that. You've already done it, right? So just, if you've done it once, you could sell it again and again and again. So think about what you could do, or like, I'm pretty sure you could do this with graphic design. And like as a photographer, I remember you can create like LUTs, like presets, like template presets. I'm sure you could do something like that for graphic design as well, and also video editing as well. DC, Kansas City, design, creative direction. So you could do also something like that. If you're doing creative direction, you could break down some kind of, you can create some kind of checklist that every creative director needs in order to run a creative department or something like that. All of the things that, something along those lines. Puerto Vallarta, Mexico. I'm going to be in Mexico next 2 weeks. Technical communications, technical writing software, hardware, urban planning. That sounds like a lot that you could do there. I'm sure it's crazy, like all the things that you can repurpose into one-off standalone products. Like I have a friend that sold literally a resume for $100 that he used to get like a 100K job. He just sold off a resume that he used. I don't think that's all it takes to get that 100K job, but hey, it sells. Design and branding. I do a lot of packaging design. Was thinking of created die lines with a design that can be bought, mock-up templates, also sell some fun stickers. That's perfect on Etsy as a side thing. That's absolutely perfect. You really need to think about or step outside of the technician role, and you kind of need to sell things that can scale. It's hard to scale a service. But if you can productize it, it actually helps for your branding too. It extends your reach. It'll, as well as revenue diversity. So highly recommend that. Let me know how it goes. Also, another way to diversify your revenue source is, I don't know if any of you in here have an existing audience base, even if it's just like 100 people on Instagram. You can leverage that audience base with affiliate marketing. So affiliate marketing is really just a simple way to earn a commission from product owners by recommending your product or service to a new customers. And then when they go through your link and they actually buy it, you get a cut. So you get a cut, the business gets a cut. A lot of people are affiliates for Amazon. I think it's a great way. At the end of this talk, I have a whole entire tool set, or my tech stack that I use to manage my business. And some of those are affiliate links. Now, you should be very upfront and honest, because people hate that you use affiliate links and you don't like let them know. But I just say something along like lines like, this is an affiliate link, and I really appreciate the support. Who doesn't like to support small business? So yeah, and this is like really great to use when you find yourself also consistently recommending various products to your clients. I know my friend that does video work. He's always recommending like certain camera gear. And so I'm like, hey man, you should just have those affiliate links ready. Sign up for Amazon affiliates program. You can just Google search away, Amazon affiliate program. And every time you recommend, you just get a little cut. It doesn't hurt. create blog posts on it, LinkedIn posts, whatever the case is. So diversify, guys or folks. Outsourcing and hiring. I know this one for me. It's a huge pain point for me. It's a huge pain point for most business owners to outsource and hire because there are nightmare situations, and in every situation manageable, there's some kind of nightmare that can happen. But let's think positively here, okay? So if there are, okay, I'm gonna pause really quickly. Someone just mentioned, look at all of the tech platforms you use and look at doing a demo and use their affiliate link. Also, it's the law to tell people it's an affiliate link. Yeah, what he said, or she, or they. Okay, so if you have a ton of repetitive small tasks that are starting to build up and taking up all of your time, then it's obviously time to hire an assistant. Me hiring an assistant really got me out of that mindset of like the doer, the implementer. And it was weird at first because it was like, like I mentioned before, the whole control freak thing that I'm working out in therapy. Yeah, so it was a good exercise, to learn a little bit more about myself and let people shine. It was also a huge pain point for me because I don't really, trust anyone per se with the quality of work that I deliver, and what I provide, right? So some pro tips, this is how I went about it. I create content. I have a podcast. I have a group. It's not a big group on Facebook of digital marketers. You can reach out to me directly at c@cynthiasmarketing.com, or you can follow me on social at the Sandoval if you want to join that, if you're a digital marketer and that makes sense. But that small community, within that small community, I actually attract like-minded individuals, right? And I ask within that Facebook group and in my email list, like, hey, is there anyone that does this or X, Y, and Z? Can you refer me? And so I get these referrals of trusted people and people that are generally like-minded. They think very similar to me, and I enjoy working with them. And then I also offered paid media coaching, and through that whole entire program, my assistant media buyer is actually my former student or client. So creating content really, really helps in attracting the right people. A lot of the educational content that I produce, I have in mind so that I can create this community so that we can, barter, or not necessarily barter, I want to pay you, but, we can share and refer people just based out of that trust. And so, like I mentioned before, within the Facebook page that I created, I made a connection, and through that connection, she referred to me my current assistant, and she's absolutely great. So I love working with referrals and things like that. But if you've already asked within your existing network for an assistant, or you're looking through that, I recommend to do that first. Go through your existing network. Then you should try platforms like Upwork and Fiverr, and assign one task to a handful of people if you can spare. I think it's a great way to qualify. And from that one task, just see which individual performs it the best or asks you the right questions, like really have that laid out. And that's how you can hire the right person, that you can then that can deliver good work, and you can hire for ongoing projects, because it's an absolute pain in the butt to be constantly looking for people. For me, I'm lazy. I just want to go for one person for one thing and just call it a day. So with that freelance business tech stack, I guess I'm not sure how this will work, if I could throw this in the chat, the specific URL, but I'll figure it out with Livio and upload this, and you could download that freelance business tech stack. And it's basically a list of everything that I use for project management, delegating tasks, proposals, contracts, invoices, bookkeeping, creating content, scheduling calls, email marketing, and then some other things that really are a lifesaver. Like Zapier is a huge lifesaver. Certain things that I use for copywriting and integrations. So I think you're going to jump in.
Yeah. Hey, Cynthia. Yes, you can put it here in the chat, and I will put this on Hey Summit.
Okay, perfect. All right, I'll do that. All right, so I'm just going to wrap up here. Some additional pro tips that I learned the really hard way. Hire an accountant as fast as you possibly can. I was really, I wouldn't say screwed over. I screwed myself over by setting up the wrong legal entity, not the ideal legal entity based on my current trajectory of growth. And just all the things that you can write off. It's very hard to do on like TurboTax. Hire an accountant as soon as you can. It's the best thing that you could possibly do. Also, they're just so knowledgeable with everything. They're a lot of times hiring an accountant can be like a mini CFO. That's the case with my accountant, which is really great. Use a business banking account. Just some tips that I wish I did starting off. Use a business banking account, or at least a separate, there's a typo, checkings account for tax and bookkeeping purposes. Like if it's not a business account, at least have a separate like checkings account. It's just so much easier. And then for more complex contracts and things like that, if a client gives you a headache, that's a good indication. Like with a contract, it's a good indication that you might have to hire a business lawyer. And those can be pricey. Like it can be anywhere like a minimum like 1,000 to 5,000, something like that. I luckily haven't had to run into that yet, but I have friends that have, and they always recommend it. For now, I just use the templated stuff. So that's me. Yeah, so you can download that Freelance business tech stack, which I'll throw in the chat in just a second. You can also download this presentation. I'll also throw that in the chat. And then feel free to follow me on social media at the Sin Sandoval. And yeah, let me know if you have any questions. Happy to dive in. I don't know if I used all of my, yeah, it looks like we're closing up on time, but let me know if you have any questions and I'm happy to answer. I'm going to stop sharing my screen right now and throw in those links for you guys. Questions, concerns? I feel like I'm in a client meeting.
Yeah, we'll give a few minutes.
Absolutely.
To
Nice to
wait
see
for
you.
more comments. Nice to see you. Livio had to go to a meeting, so I'm here helping with the chat.
Yeah, he mentioned, no worries. All right, so I could just throw this into the chat.
Let me add the new comments here.
Oh, I guess it's the private chat that I can throw this in. Right?
Yes.
Great. Oh, I love compliments. Someone said great and practical information. Cynthia is very impressive. I love compliments. Keep them rolling. Well, I need them.
That was an awesome presentation.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Keep the compliments rolling, man. I love them. Thanks for the great ideas. I'm doing well, but you gave me a whole new way to understand and grow / improve my business. That makes me very happy. And that's the goal at the end of the day, right? Honestly, it's everything I wish I knew 5 years ago. Please, guys, read that book, The E-Myth. The best book I've read. I read it way too late, but it's an excellent book. Sorry, I'm just getting these links now. So thoughts on imposter syndrome. Ooh, I have some thoughts. I'm curious to also hear your thoughts on this, Jonieth, if you have. I'm sure you do. But for me, I think that with imposter syndrome, it's a rite of passage, the way I see it. It's something that's supposed to happen. And if you don't feel like an imposter, I would question whether or not you're really pushing yourself into new territory. Now there's different, like I think you need to check in with yourself and ask yourself what that voice is. If that voice is a little bit more detrimental, then, that might be like some trauma coming up. But if it's a natural, like you're questioning yourself because you've never done this before, you absolutely should. And you should revel in the fact that, yeah, you are an imposter because this is the first time you're doing this. Like I'm Latina, I'm 5'2", I'm like a little bit chubby, a little like to say thick, I guess. And, like I'm completely in this and I've never made this amount of money. I've never scaled a business to this scale. I come from a family of complete immigrants. This is all new to me. But I really try my best to just remain present and to take it day by day and embrace the fact that I don't know. Everyone has this front that like they know what they're doing. Like half the times I don't know what I'm doing, just figuring it out as I go. So you'll be okay.
That was great, especially as immigrants. I'm also an immigrant from Nicaragua. I've been here in the US for 5 years. So it can be really difficult when you don't have references in your family, you're the first one doing these things. It's like, how do I do this? But I think that the best thing is when you have a support system and when you can have a mentor and have coworkers and have friends that can help you in that journey. So that makes a big difference for that. We have another comment here. Let me put it here.
Beautifully said.
Let me double check.
Yes.
If we have any more.
Pro tip, you have a beautiful deck, but it's hard to read. I'd adjust your font size a bit. It's helpful, especially for members of the audience with less than perfect vision. Well, that's a good tidbit to know. Thank you. I appreciate that. I will make note of that moving forward. I don't have good vision either. That's why I wear
We're on the
glasses.
same team. Yes, so I think that's it. No more questions. Wait a few seconds here. This was an awesome session. Let me put here in the chat the link.
Try to get prettier links, but I was rushing. Sorry.
That's fine. It doesn't have to be perfect.
Perfection is the enemy of progress. That's what I like to say.
Yes, let me add the details here.
Yep. Thank you for having me, by the way. Thank you so much. This was an absolute blast, just sharing all of my failures into lessons. It's an absolute blast to help the next generation or the next leaders and as freelancers. Absolute blast. Can't repeat it enough.
Yeah, it was awesome. I lost the screen with this. I don't know what happened. I can't see you. Give me a second. Oh, what happened here?
Oh no.
Oops. Okay. Okay. Technology is not perfect.
No, technology is.
Yeah, I cannot see StreamYard right now. And oops, let me see what happened here.
Uh-oh.
Okay, here.
Hey.
Found it.
How you doing?
Okay. Let me put this other thing here. Thank you so much to everyone that joined this session. And yeah, it's always great to have you. We hope to see you in the next Freelance Business Week.
Yes.
It's always a pleasure. So yeah, thank you, everyone. Have a great Wednesday. Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone. Take care. Follow me.